Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee of December 14th, 2021 at 5:32 p.m. First order of business, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the draft minutes of November 23rd, 2021 Finance Committee meeting?
So moved.
Motion made by Alder Wheeler. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item of business is the item 3, public appearances, non-agenda items. I do not believe we have anyone in chambers or on Zoom at this point. Is that correct? Correct. All right, thank you. Moving on to item 4, the Finance Director report. Misty Dodge, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, please. Tax bills hit mailboxes over the weekend. We did have a line out the door Monday morning ready to get paid, so that was good. So things have been pretty busy as we're starting to collect. One nuance this year is that because of how the holidays fall, the rest of City Hall is going to be closed on December 31st. We decided, because so many people like to pay on December 31st, that we would be open for tax collection only from 7:30 to noon. So just want to put that out there. I did do a Fact TV spot to talk about how the bill is calculated and the insert. All of that is out there. So we're moving forward. The debt closed a couple weeks ago, went well as the prepayment of that TID 4 debt. So that was all taken care of. And then today we had our preliminary field work with the auditors, which also went well. So things are moving right along.
Very good, very good. Thank you. We'll move on to item 5, the review of bills. 5A, detailed review of checks for $10,000 and above for the period of November 16th through the 30th, 2021, totaling $22,102.76. Do I have any questions? Do we have any questions, discussion? Yep. Yes, Alder Wheeler, go ahead.
Just have one on that page where there's ESO Solutions. What is that?
That is a software used in the fire department.
Okay, thank you.
Chief is here if you want more specifics, but.
Oh, just wanted to know what it was.
Yep.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to the next item. Item 5B, detailed review of all checks issued. Checks 122790 through 122825 for the period of November 16th through the 30th, 2021, totaling $72,679.91. Questions, discussions from the committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5C, detailed review of all ACH payments for $10,000 and above for the period of November 1st through the 30th, 2021, totaling $532,678.98. Questions from the committee? And I'm going to open the document, because I believe this is where I have a question. This question is, of course, for Misty. Since they're large dollar amounts, the one regarding health, retirement system, and I won't list off the dollar amounts, and dental is not as significant. Do you know what kind of cycle that's on? That isn't a monthly payment, is it?
It is a monthly payment.
It is, okay. Just wanted to make certain, because it is an eye-opener. Okay. Thank you. And moving on to the next item. And I just lost my place. Excuse me, just lost it. All right. I believe we were moving on to D, is that correct? Does that sound correct from the committee? My page dropped. Item D, detailed review of all ACH payments, November 1st through the 30th, 2021, totaling $544,115.28. Questions from the committee? Discussion? Yeah. Hearing none, we'll move on to item E, detailed review of P-card transactions for $10,000 and above for the cycle ending November 8th, 2021, totaling $117,270.26. Questions or discussion from the committee? Hearing none, moving on to 5F, review of P-card transactions for the cycle ending November 8th, 2021, total $301,375.74. Questions, discussion from the committee? Hearing none, we will move on to item 6A, under action items. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-161-21, approving reimbursement of the sub-interceptor and wet well installation cost in Terravessa?
I move approval.
Approval made by Alder Gerhart. Misty, will you speak to this one?
Yep.
Okay.
So the development over in Terravessa required a stormwater or a sewer lift station. The developer at the time put down an escrow to pay for the cost of that at $1.3 million. The project has been completed. The engineer has gone through all of the final costs and the allocations of the different benefiting properties. And at the end of the day, we owe some of that escrow money back to the developer. So what this is authorizing is that repayment.
Okay, very good. Is there discussion from the committee? No. Hearing none, I'll place it to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Item 6B. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-215-21, amending the 2021 Debt and Capital Projects Fund budgets? Unused budgeted interest payment and unspent 2020A proceeds to reduce debt issuance.
I move approval.
A motion to approve made by Alder Wheeler. Misty, will you address this as well?
Yep. So we did our 2021 debt issuance. When we went through that process, I did reduce the amount that we needed to borrow by two different categories of payments. First is that we budgeted to make an interest payment in 2021, but because of the timing, we didn't issue the debt till December 1st was when we closed. We didn't have to make an interest payment in 2021. So we are redirecting that budgeted money to lower the amount that we budgeted in 2021. So what this does is then moves that money to the project that needs to be able to spend that money. The second piece of this is in 2020, we borrowed for McKee Road. Those costs came in less than what we expected. So there was some extra money that I had already borrowed in 2020 for that project that I am redirecting to other streets projects in compliance with IRS requirements and in conversation with the bond counsel and our financial advisors. So we reduced about $1 million that we had to borrow in 2021 because of that proceeds that was available to redirect.
Okay, very good. I'll open it to the floor. Committee, questions? Alder Gerhart, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I assume that this is this is a strategy you do every year to just check and see if we can save some money. Is this an average type of amount that we see? Is this more than normal, less than normal?
The interest amount is about average. The amount of the McKee Road proceeds that were available to transfer was pretty high. It was more than I expected. So that's not as common, but the strategy as a whole is common.
Okay, so it's just because the project was so big and it came in under budget,
Exactly.
bigger chunk of money? Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
Any additional questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll place the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to item 6C. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-221-21, approving of poured in-place surfacing for inclusive playground?
I move approval.
All right, motion to approve made by Alder Gerhart. And I'm guessing Scott will address. Scott, you have the floor.
Very good. Thank you. This is another piece of our inclusive playground project at McKee Farms Park. It is a surfacing, and just as a bit of information, it's 4,200 square feet of surfacing. We did publicly bid this portion. We received 5 proposals. The lowest bid came from Meek Surfacing, actually at a price of $14.90 per square foot, for a total of $62,580. They did include in their bid an alternate to have full color. Typically, it's half colored and half black, but they did include an alternate or an additional bid for $1.50 per square foot to add on to make it full color. And even with that addition, the price at $16.40 per square foot was the low bid. So the Park Commission is recommending Meek Surfacing for a price of $68,880. And I would like to note that we did receive a $52,000 donation towards this portion of the project.
Very good, thank you, Scott. I'll open it up for discussion. Alder Gerhart, go ahead.
Thank you. Scott, what color is it going to be? I'm just curious. Or maybe we don't know yet.
Push the wrong button. And actually, that's going to be something that I will take back to our committee. There are some professionals on the group that works with this population. So there are some colors that are better than others. So
Yeah.
we'll and hopefully it'll be a lighter color. Certainly during the summer with the dark colors, it'll absorb heat and those kinds of things. So we're still kind of working through the details of what the color will be.
Whenever you do figure that out, I would be interested to know. I don't know at what point you would have a reason to bring that to council, but it would be interesting to know when you know that, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the council.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, additional questions, discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Item 6D, do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-222-21, updating the 2022 fee schedule, add pickleball court rental fee, and new park shelter rental fee schedule? Do I have a motion?
I move approval.
Motion to approve made by Alder Wheeler. And Scott, are you addressing this issue as well, or just,
I can,
if you would, please?
very good. And as you know, we did add pickleball courts to our park amenity facilities available to rent. So in doing that, we needed to add that to the current fee schedule that was approved this past summer in the 2022 budget. What we did want to do also is take the opportunity to our park shelter rental fee schedule, and if you look at it in your packet, is a bit confusing. So really what we wanted to try to do is make it a little bit more streamlined and easier to read for both the customer and for our staff. So the Park Commission is proposing to go from a 5-tier system to a 2-tier system. And the difference is that the first tier basically would be 1 to 99, and then the second tier would be 100 and above. We also made some additional changes. In the past, if it was a large event, there was just a one fee of $900, but with that, there was an array of different number of days in which the group rented the facility. So they could have had the facility for up to 5 days, or there might have been another group that had it up to 1. So And again, in the interest of fairness, we did change that if a group is going to use the park shelter on a specific day, they would pay for that specific day. So it makes it certainly more objective when they are renting the facility. I would like to add that the administration did ask us, the recreation department, to do a cost analysis. So what they did do is they ran the 2021 shelter reservations through this new fee schedule, and it was almost a wash, actually a little bit. We would have received a little bit more. And actually another minor change in the interest of making it uniform, the Hugo Jamestown indoor shelter, or that shelter reservation was raised $25 to make sure that it was consistent with the McKee Farms Park indoor shelter. And included in your information, we did have a total of 68 rentals at Hugo Jamestown in 2021. So with that $25 increase, it would have been an additional $1,700. The Park Commission, which I noted on the referral sheet, did make an amendment to the proposed two-tier system by adding Hugo Jamestown to a large event, to potentially have a large event at Hugo Jamestown. So that was added to the amended by the Park Commission from the proposed fee structure tier system that you have in your packet.
So if I may, Chair, so right now the motion is to approve as proposed, which would be what is in the packet. If the committee is interested in amending it to mirror what Parks Commission did, and we're able to do that, it would be easiest way would be either to do a friendly amendment by whoever moved to approve, or do an official amendment to amend it consistent with Parks Commission.
Could you go with that again?
So I guess first the question is, do you want to amend it? Do you want to be consistent with what Parks Commission was? If so, the easiest way would be for you, Jim, because you made the motion, to do a friendly amendment to change your motion to be as approved by the Parks Commission. And feel free to just say ditto.
Ditto.
So he's doing a friendly amendment to change his motion to be as approved by the Parks Commission, or as recommended by the Parks Commission.
All right, and then in my role, I mean, do we have further discussion then, or we just leave it at that?
I think you can just leave it at that. And since it was a friendly, we still just need the one vote on the thing overall
All
once
right.
you get to that point.
Therefore, then, going forward here, I can place the motion to a vote then.
Unless you have
Yeah,
further discussion.
Sure, or Alder Gerhardt has a question, go ahead.
Thank you. Scott, I'm just curious, and I'm perfectly I'm gonna pass this, but I'm just curious, a couple of things. Number one, with the pickleball courts, my understanding is that they're very popular. How do you enforce the rentals of the courts? Is that posted somewhere so people know that people rented it at a certain time?
Well, not for individual rentals, Gabriella. What we will do is, if there's a league, which is what we do at McKee for the youth tennis courts, we'll put a general, courts 1 through 4 are reserved on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 until noon for the recreation department. So we would do the same at the pickleball courts in Fahey Fields or McGaw Park. What happens is the reservation is basically a guarantee that you have a court at a specific time. So through that reservation process, the customer receives a paper copy of the receipt of that permit. So if by chance they would go to the pickleball courts and they know they have court number 4 reserved from 10 to noon, and they get there and they find that someone else is on that court, what they do then is they show that permit to that group or the person that's using the courts, and then, in theory, and I really haven't had any problems where then the people that are on the court would leave. And I will tell you that we are meeting with some pickleball advocates, the recreation department and staff, and because we are anticipating that it is going to be a very popular place, so we're working to see what the best practice is to manage the use of the courts.
Yeah, it seems like it could become an issue. I wonder how it functions. I trust that you'll manage it. I just was curious.
Yeah.
The other question I had was, is there ever been any discussion with rentals for park shelters or for the community rooms in the community center to have kind of a lowered rate for people, like for example, for nonprofits or for people with less means to apply for kind of a lower fee for a particular use?
We haven't done that, Gabriella. I know we do have a resident and a non-resident rate, but really at this point there is no consideration for a different consideration for a nonprofit in comparison to a business or a private resident.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Further discussion? Hearing
Maybe
none.
one-
Oops, go ahead.
If I might add, they also, in the fee, I did provide a paper copy within the packet. The Park Commission did remove, I mistakenly left in the Park Festival fees for large event line on page 4 of that submittal. So that'll be taken off too.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Additional questions, discussion? Hearing none, then let's move the motion before us along with the friendly amendment to reflect the Parks amendment. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Moving on to item 6E. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-223-21, amending the 2021 General Fund and Capital Projects Fund budgets, reinstating parking lot resurfacing and park vehicle funding from collected recreational programming fees?
I move approval.
Motion to approve made by Alder Gerhart. And Misty, are you discussing?
Otherwise, Scott, would you like to handle this one?
Scott?
I can. Do you want me to?
Yes, please, go ahead. You have the floor. Thank you.
Very good. And this is, as you recall, and during the budget process for the operating budget for 2021, there was concern in regards to laying off of 2 recreational employees, but the council was able to come up with a plan B so that we didn't have to do that. And basically what they did is they grabbed some dollars from the 2 CIP accounts that are identified in the referral and the resolution. The details of that, the parking lot portion was $75,197, and then the recreational vehicle was $17,774. And thankfully, we had a very good summer and rental season this last year, so we're able to make whole those accounts so we can get on with our parking lot project in 2022, and then purchase that second new recreational vehicle.
Very good. Anything further to add, Misty?
I guess the only nuance is that technically we are reversing the budget amendment that was approved before. So it was approved before, now we're saying never mind, and we're just gonna reverse it.
Okay, very good. Discussion from the committee. Yes, Alder Gerhart.
Thanks. I just wanted to say I'm very pleased that we were able to make that happen. Randy and I believe it was January that we did that, right? It was after the
Right.
budget process, so Jimmy might have missed it, but I'm just really pleased that we were able to avoid those layoffs and in the end that money was not, we didn't end up having to use that money anyway. So it just kind of demonstrates the work that the council put in to make that happen, and staff made to make that happen. So thank you for that work, and it's really pleasing result in the end.
You know, I have to second that comment. You know, we struggled with that back in January, and we didn't struggle with we struggled with where we were going to pull the money from. We really had in our minds at that time, it was difficult to even consider laying off 2 individuals. So I guess it was a calculated risk, and it did pay off. Is there any other discussion? Alder Wheeler? No? All right, I'll place the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, item 6F. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-226-21, approving a development agreement between Inventure Capital LLC and the City of Fitchburg for the Ocala Drive mixed-use project? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Motion to approve made by Alder Wheeler. And Misty, do you want to?
So I'll just set the stage for a bit. So we do have Mike Thorson here. He's the developer. He will give a brief summary of what the project is. And then Greg Johnson and Frank Roman from Ellers, our financial advisor, will walk us through the pro forma that we did as a part of the development.
Okay. Mike is up first.
I think that's a great way to start.
All right, Mike, you have the floor.
Sure. Hi, thanks. We are proposing a mixed-use development on the lot just behind the UW Credit Union building off the Ocala Road extension at the lighted intersection where Ocala Road now currently dead ends, just by the stormwater retention pond. The project is going to be 170 units of market rate apartments with about 10,500 square feet of commercial, fronting, facing towards Fish Hatchery Road. We are proposing this request for TIF merely to reimburse us for the costs of creating or constructing the extension of the Ocala Drive all the way through to Index Road, along with associated public improvements to the storm water facilities and undergrounding some of the electricals and other utilities. We are proposing that this estimated to cost no more than $1 million, and we would simply do the construction efforts in coordination with the city and city staff and be reimbursed through the TIF mechanism.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. And is there any questions for Mike? Before we move on. Okay, we're going to move on to, is it Frank?
Frank and Greg.
Yes.
All right,
And they will share their screen so you can follow along.
go ahead, Frank, or Greg.
Okay, I'm going to start, and I'm trying to get the screen to show for you. Is that visible to you now?
Not yet. No.
No, nothing yet.
Okay.
Otherwise, would you like me to share?
Oh.
Oh, excellent.
There we go. We do see it now.
Okay. So that's mine up there where you're seeing this. Okay, good. All right. Thanks, Mike, for the preview on that. Adventure actually just completed the Terrace Point Apartments up the street up on Fish Hatchery Road. That building opened in the beginning of June, and I believe Mike indicated that it's fully leased by the end of July, so it's a very successful project in that respect. They're doing this one here on Ocala, as Mike mentioned. The request request from the city was to extend Ocala Drive from its terminal point right now over to Index Drive. The development doesn't really require that, but in order to kind of accommodate the city's plans for, city traffic and grids, et cetera, that was incorporated into this project. So hence the nature of the TIF request for this. At the end of that construction, about 7.77 acres of right-of-way will be dedicated to the city for that roadway and related infrastructure on that. So we've reviewed from Inventure, the project sources and uses, the unit mix, the income and expenses, operating cash flows, et cetera. We've made any adjustments that have been needed or corrections on that. We also then modeled that into the tax increment projections and TIF cash flows that are part of this analysis. So in this respect, the city is going to make 50% of the increment available to Inventure to consider the Oshala extension. We always evaluate these to be sure that the TIF request meets the but-for test. In other words, but for the assistance that's provided, this project cannot be completed or attempted as is with the quality and the timing that's being proposed. And also that there is another key measure, there's no undue enrichment to the developer. So this is in TID number 10, which is the rehab conservation TID. It was established in 2015 and as a 27-year term. It will terminate in where am I? Fluid. Get to that in a minute. So as Mike said, 170 market rate units from studios to 3 bedrooms, mostly 1 and 2 bedrooms to address the market demand that's being evidenced here. There'll be covered parking spaces and again, about another 10,000 or so square foot of a retail building that stands separately at the end of the site. The rents in this project are being projected about 6.6% higher than Terrace Point, which was just, again, just completed up the street from here. So total project cost of $38.5 million. So this will be done on a pay-as-you-go basis for the TIF, or otherwise known as a developer-funded TIF, to be for $1 million plus interest for those Oshala Drive extensions. So the pay-go structure shifts the risk from the city to the developer. They have to produce this to generate the tax increment revenue to pay for these costs. Groundbreaking is anticipated to start in March of 2022 and complete by June of 2023. At that point, the municipal revenue obligation, or the MRO, also known as the TIF note, would be issued. So the building's got to be completed before this documentation will be put in place to reimburse the developer for that work. We've gone through the operating budget. They provided us replacement reserves that are adequate for market norms. And the operating expense ratio of the project is just about 40%, which is typical for these type of projects. So when we look at these deals, we look at 2 return metrics. One would be the cash on cash, and the other would be the internal rate of return, or the IRR. The cash on cash is an annual calculation of the cash flow available to the developer after expenses and debt service divided by the equity invested in the project. Generally, we see that on a stabilized project of about 8 to 12%. In this case, after the TIF payments are completed, the cash on cash reduces to about 6%, but then it increases back up to into that low end of that normal range within the 10-year intended investment period. Internal rate of return is a different animal. It includes more of the time value of money concept. So it would take the annual cash flows, as just discussed a second ago, and also would consider the net sales proceeds of the project, which would be after all equity and debt after all the debt is retired. Generally, this is commercial projects are generally evaluated on about a 10-year mark. You'll see that for standard bank underwriting and appraisals and assessments in that respect. So at the 10-year mark here, we're looking at about a 14.8% IRR. This is kind of in the mid-range of the levels that we're seeing of between 11 to 18% for multifamily projects. So Again, in either of these events, we are not unduly enriching the developer by providing this TIF assistance. So again, with the concept of the but-for question, reducing the project or stripping that of any TIF assistance, the cash on cash was between 4 and 5% for the first number of years of the holding period, and finally reaches about 8% by year 10. Those levels obviously are below what investors would expect and would not attract investment capital to this project. The internal rate of return reduces to about 13.5% at year 10, which is still kind of in a mid-range period, but the capitalization rate or the risk evaluation rate that's applied to this is 5.75%. That's somewhat aggressive. They are seeing some cap rates in that range recently, but generally that cap rate is between 6 and 6.5% or so, which would reduce that internal rate of return. So we find that the but-for test has been met for this project. So again, the TID terminates in 2045, which is what I was trying to figure out before. Because of the relative low amount of this ask of $1 million compared to the higher valuation of 30-something million, which we'll see in a second, this PAYGO incentive is satisfied in just 6 years of operation. That's actually should be 2027. So I'll walk through this the numbers in just a second on the project level, and then Greg will roll that into a discussion of the larger tax increment district, which includes some considerations for the Terrace Point and other projects in the district. So first of all, we're looking at the project here. Commencing construction in 2022, assigned a value of about $17.5 million to be put in place at that point as a partial year valuation. The assessor will look at that as a work in progress number. In 2023, the project was completed, adding another $14.5 million. We're looking at a value of $32 million. Now, this is the incremental value of the project, which is over and above the existing assessed value of the parcel at $678,000. So total value at the end of the day is closer to $33 million, but we're looking at the increment that's being produced right here. Moving forward, the values that we just looked at are being indicated in here. You'll notice that this is the construction year here, 2022, at the $17.5 million. That value won't be assessed until 2023. And then, as Misty indicated, tax bills just went out. So by the time those are paid and allocated back, the funds available for that are not available until 2024. So there's a 2-year lag in when value was put in place and when monies actually flow back through the incentive arrangement. So you'll see the dates of construction versus revenue. We've taken the existing TID tax rate here and we've reduced it by 0.5% over time as this decreases as the value increases. Here's the projected incremental taxes that are being produced by the project at this point. Now this is going to carry over to the next page over here. Those numbers in the orange column are now these numbers here. So this is the TID cash flows for the project only. So we've got that $1 million incentive that's being funded by the developer, either by a combination or either by debt or equity or a combination thereof. The city is allocating a 5% interest factor to that incentive. So the payments on principal on that are being made through here through 2027. Here's the $1 million plus the capitalized interest here. This obligation is extinguished in 2027. Very quickly, this is the amount that's available to the city as their portion of the increment, and then the city is also allocating a portion of this incremental taxes to administrative costs of the TID, which includes accounting, legal, filing fees, etc. So again, payoff on the incentive is very short, which is very favorable from the city's perspective and obviously the developer as well. So I'm going to roll down now and hand off to Greg. Greg, I'll drive for you if you'd like, and he can discuss the overall larger TID picture there.
Thank you, Frank. So what's showing here on the screen is really just the overall incremental projections for the entire district of TID 10 since its creation. So in the actual column shows the amount of incremental value that's been certified by the DOR each year. Then we include the Ocala Drive incremental value, which is the same projections that we used in our project standalone analysis. And then we're forecasting the estimated incremental value constructed in 2026, which is estimated at 9.6 million. That's the rest of the valuation from the Terrace Point apartments and then the completion of the Park Bank project. So all of that flows through to the next page, which is the same increment projection worksheet that we looked at on the project standalone basis, but encompasses the entire TIF district. So we're really looking at a fairly, narrow window of time here, projects that were under construction in 2021 plus the Ocala Drive project. We're not forecasting any additional new construction beyond construction year 2023. So just accounting for, what is known here within the next few construction seasons in this particular project. So the final several spreadsheets are the cash flow analysis for the district. So we show all the revenues, which is the tax increments, the primary revenue to this district. The city has financed several capital projects through the issuance of debt over the past few years. That's primarily portions of the Fish Hatchery Road project that were deemed to be TID 10 eligible. And then there are also some municipal revenue obligations, other pay-as-you-go development incentives that have been issued for other developments. So we've estimated repayments of those incentives as well. And then that carries forward through the final page of the cash flow analysis, shows the remainder of the Fish Hatchery Road projects that were financed in 2020, and then the repayment of this not to exceed $1 million for the Ocala Drive improvements related to this development agreement. So what it shows, based off of, construction activity here in the near term, this proposed project, the takeaway message for the overall TID district is that this project is helping the overall cash flow of the district and supporting some of the capital investment that the city has made, primarily through financing of a portion of the Fish Hatchery Road improvements. So this is helping the overall cash flow of the district to help support those project costs. So, and without the city borrowing any money for this development incentive, as we've mentioned, that's all, funded by the developer up front and reimbursed by the TID. So this project is helping the overall performance of the district. So we just wanted to speak to that in the broader context of TID 10.
And just real quickly, this indicates that the district, the obligations of the district can be satisfied and closed by 2039 versus the statutory limit of 2044.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike, Frank, and Greg. Misty, do you have any further comments?
I do not, just unless there's questions.
Okay, I'll open up to the floor for the committee. Questions, discussion? Yes, Alder Gerhardt.
Yeah, I really appreciate Ehlers coming out to explain all this. The but-for is really helpful to get that explanation from them. But I think if this is truly, because this is truly being used for the road, I think it makes a perfect sense. And just to clarify too, I mean, I think this has been said, but it's not going to go from Fish Hatchery all the way to Index Road, and we'll connect in. That's great. And CETA approved this, is that right, Jim? Yes. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for the detailed summary. That was really helpful.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Please signify by saying aye for those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries. Again, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to the next item. Find my place here. 6G, Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-227-21, network switch replacement? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Motion to approve made by Alder Gerhart. Do we have somebody that's speaking to this, Misty, or are you?
We do not. I can speak to it, though.
Okay.
So this is the regular replacement of some pretty important IT security equipment that we have. So it's a standard 7-year replacement. We keep on that schedule proactively because it includes security upgrades as well as support upgrades. And this is the piece of equipment that allows the second floor and third floor here at City Hall, as well as the community center, the senior center, and the FACT TV area, all have access to doors and to printers and to the network and all of that. So it's a really critical piece of equipment for our overall IT functionality.
Very good. Discussion from the committee. Questions? No. Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries. Next item, 6H. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-234-21, approving a contract with Dane County to accept 2022 Neighborhood Navigator funding? It's a direct referral.
I move approval.
Okay. Motion made by Alder Wheeler. Misty, are you just?
Yep.
Go ahead.
So this is a grant agreement with the county. This is I believe, our 3rd year of the grant in order to fund the neighborhood navigators in whole through the county program. So the big difference from last year is there is a small increase in the contract amount due to the cost of living increase authorized by Dane County. And then the other thing Wade wanted me to mention is that there is an opening for the second neighborhood navigator that's funded through this grant. We're hoping to hire them in early 2022. But this is basically funding a program 100%.
100%.
100% of the actual neighborhood navigators, yep, and it is budgeted.
Very good. Questions or discussion from the committee? No. Hearing none, place the motion to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on to 6I, the resolution. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-236-21, accepting a donation for the purchase of a drone, direct referral?
I move approval.
Motion to approve made by Alder Gerhart. And Misty, will you?
I can, otherwise Chief Pulvermacher is here as well. He might
Sure.
have some more details.
Very good. Chief Pulvermacher, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. So the drone project, this is something that was presented to the council, I believe, 2 budget cycles ago, and wasn't approved based on the fact that we were unable to fund it municipally. But we were tasked with trying to find a different method of funding this project. There is value because it doesn't just support the fire department or the police department. We're also going to be using it in city engineering, Department of Public Works, economic development, FACT TV. And where that provides benefit is it provides more sustainability to the project. We have more pilots available. If we happen to be on an emergency, we are not tasking firefighters or police officers to fly the drone. We have other pilots within our program to be able to do that. In addition, with GIS and Dakota Dorn, through engineering, he's able to use it for mapping and doing things that identify things that are specific to topography and overall something that will also provide benefit from a readiness perspective, just so that we have an idea of things like water flows and things like that. So all in all, it's serving the city, it's not just serving public safety. We were very grateful to be able to receive a donation from Dr. Jim Burby and Karen Walsh as individuals. They're obviously very active in the community. They saw this as being an opportunity to be able to support the community from not only a public safety standpoint, but all in all from just a city operations standpoint. So a lot of benefit to be had, and we were thankful to be able to provide the information right off the bat. We've been looking at this for a while. We have the policies and the procedures identified. We know what operational costs are going to look like. And with a shared concept across a number of different city departments, it becomes very sustainable over the long term.
Very good. I'll open up to the committee for any question or discussion. The question that I have is, as far as you mentioned the policies and procedures, I'm guessing that conversation has taken place between various departments, and because I'm guessing also that there's some real strict rules out there as to a drone, just from my elementary reading, that this thing can't just send it up, and we have to have some real procedures that's set in place, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a number of different things we have to look at as far as our ability to fly based on conditions. We'd also have to take a look at what our mission is and whether it requires additional approvals. Obviously, we have to take into consideration civil liberties when it involves capturing data. And then from just an overall perspective, there's certain rules that apply to flying it over buildings and people. There are times when we can do that, but it takes a certain skill set. So the way that I see us actually implementing this is over the long term. We'll be able to do certain things with it right away. Obviously, training would be one of them. The second thing that we would be able to do is operate on the periphery or on the perimeter. And then as we receive more flight time and training, we would be able to introduce more and more into that concept based on our level of training. But the value is going to be appreciated within the first quarter, I'd say, of 2022. And then moving forward, we'll be able to see more coming from that program based on the training and the exposure, the experience.
Good, very good. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll place the motion before us to a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Pellenmacher. All right, moving on to 6J. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution R-237-21, adopting the schedule to complete an ARPA TID closure spending plan, direct referral? Do I have a motion? Motion to approve made by Alder Wheeler, and I suspect, Misty, you're going to speak to this.
Yes, please.
You have the floor.
So we've talked quite a bit about the ARPA funding and the TID closure funding through the various discussions we've had, most notably the budget process that we just recently went through. So this is kind of that first step of the actual spending plan that we will have adopted by the council. So we are doing it as a direct referral tonight to get this schedule adopted, just so everybody can get their calendars updated, know what to expect. The proposed schedule in front of you includes a kickoff discussion at the next Committee of the Whole meeting, which is the January one. What I envision there is I will do a presentation to council and the public to talk about what this money is, what the rules are that's around it, the best practices, kind of give a context for everybody before we start this important process. After that, very shortly after that, the mayor will put out a proposed spending plan. We're going to follow a very similar process to budget. So the mayor would put out his proposed spending plan. We would have a special finance committee meeting. So this group in particular, make sure you can make it and have it on your calendar. It would be Wednesday, February 2nd at 6 p.m., where we would go through what the mayor's proposal is, ask questions, so you have a full understanding of what his proposal includes. We would do a public hearing at the next council meeting, again, similar to budget, where the public could come in and share what their thoughts are about the mayor's proposal. Then shortly thereafter, council amendments would be due to me, so I could put those all together into a packet. That packet then comes out the end of that week, so there's not going to be enough time to have like staff memos and things like that in there, but at least get the documents all pulled together. Then we will have the next Committee of the Whole meeting in February to talk about the council proposed amendments to that, and then we would have a public hearing at the following council meeting A public hearing would be about those council proposed amendments, and then hopefully go through them just like we did with budget, one by one, vote on them, and then at the end have a spending plan that could be voted on. I think there's some important nuances here where budget is very much so once it's approved, staff goes forward and implements it. This is instead a spending plan, which means that this is very top level, like 30,000-foot view of what the council's priorities are and how to spend this money. So that, once this is passed, doesn't mean things will be implemented right away. Staff will have to go back, research, figure out what steps need to be. There might be more council approvals needed, but at least narrow the focus so that staff is only working on the projects that are the priority of the council.
Very good. Questions? Yes, Alder Gerhart.
I appreciate that we're going to make this a kind of a public process. I'm concerned about the timeline on this, just because, I already think the budget schedule and the CIP schedule can be really quick, especially if you're trying to get community feedback. There's just not enough time, but there's those statutory things that we have to hit. We have to hit those mile markers. But this is not really governed by those rules, and so I would much rather have a longer process where we can really gather input, especially because, with the CIP, that's a 10-year plan. We're usually just making little tweaks and moves to it, maybe adding a project. The budget, there's a lot of things that have to be funded no matter what. But this is like, we can dream big. We have $6 million+ to do really interesting things with. And I think more time for public feedback is going to be better. I guess, and my preference really is that initial kickoff, whenever that is followed by a public hearing, and that after that, the mayor makes a proposal. Because I think there's kind of an adversarial thing that's created with the budget process where the mayor proposes and then we propose amendments. And this I don't think has to be that way. We could propose to the mayor, and he can work it into his initial budget proposal, and also gather ideas from the public about things that maybe we haven't even thought of. So I think this is too quick. I'd rather slow it down, and I don't know what the process would be for proposing an alternate schedule. I'd be happy to propose something specific, but I do generally think this is too fast.
I will say, I agree, it's very fast. Part of the direction I had was to have it approved by the end of the first quarter of 2022, so that we know what the spending plan is. And then also, we all know there's an election coming up, right? So have this council be the one that sets that first spending plan. As far as the public hearing at the Committee of the Whole, that would be up to the council president. They wanted to add that to the agenda. And then from a process perspective, if you want to make tweaks to this schedule or have a different proposal kind of already that you could share with council could act on that still tonight. The other option would be either at this body or the council meeting to postpone it until that first meeting in January, and then you could bring an alternate schedule there too. There is still times that would still be approved before that Committee of the Whole meeting.
Well, so can I?
No, go ahead.
So, and we're also lumping, I think it makes sense to talk about the TID and ARPA because they're together, because they're like these one-time pots of money. Is there any reason we have to do both at the same time? Like there's no statutory requirements for either TID closure money or for ARPA money as to how the process goes or when that process has to be complete. It's really just kind of an internal decision that we get to make?
Correct. And the fact that we're even doing a spending plan is not a requirement.
Okay. Well, I guess maybe my initial suggestion was, is there any reason we couldn't have a kickoff presentation earlier in January, since we know this is coming? Like a special finance meeting where we talk about the rules and the regulations. Because I even would be interested in having a conversation with the mayor about things. You guys know I brought ideas for the budget, and those are things that I want to bring back. But I also don't know the rules and requirements. I couldn't even necessarily even submit my own ideas in advance because I don't know the full scope of the rules. And waiting until the end of January to do that seems like too long. I'd rather get going on it sooner.
Well, to add in, I'm not having a problem with the schedule itself. I would like to see it I would like to see all of these issues resolved before the end of that first quarter as well, before the election. Maybe this is something we really should take to council, to have that wider discussion and see where it goes from there as far as if you want to amend or, personally, I think we could vote on it and move it forward, and then bring it up at council, which will be brought up at council, correct? It's on the agenda this evening.
It is, yep. So either this body could choose to vote on it up or down, amend it if you wanted to, or you could also send it to council without a recommendation.
Yeah.
And it did come to Finance Committee because there is that special Finance Committee meeting, which is why it's here and not only at council.
Alder Wheeler.
So if we send it to council without a recommendation, does there have to be a motion or an amendment? Because I think that's where I'm leaning. I don't know how the rest.
As a recommendation, or?
Just send it to council and not with the recommendation, but just send it to council. Because I agree with you, Gabriella. It seems kind of quick, but I just don't have a solution right now. I would like to hear other input, from the other council members.
I don't know, do you know our options there, Misty?
Yep, so right now, Jim, you are the one that motioned to approve, so you're able to do another friendly amendment to change your motion to refer it to council without a recommendation from Finance Committee. So moved works fine.
I would like to change my motion to send it to council without a recommendation.
Okay. Is there further discussion? Since there's no further discussion, we'll place the motion to a vote with the friendly amendment as outlined by Alder Wheeler. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, motion carries with the friendly amendment.
Correct, so this has now been sent to council without a Finance Committee recommendation.
That's correct. Okay, moving on, under item 7, announcements. Next Finance Committee meeting, January 11th, 2022. And then moving on to item 8, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Alder Gerhart. Is there discussion? Hearing none, place it to a vote. Those in favor for adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We are adjourned at 6:35 p.m.